Neighbourhood malls in Canada and the US are seeing declining revenues. In the West End of Toronto, for example, the Kipling Queensway Mall has several vacant stores as it struggles to attract tenants in this changing retail landscape. At the Five Points Mall in Oshawa, the former Target store is being redeveloped into a self-storage facility, and the rest of the mall will be demolished and turned into an open-air facility. Joining me now to talk about these changes and really the future of Canadian retail is Doug Stevens, author of the book Reengineering Retail. So here we are, Doug, the changing landscape.
Yeah, it's enormous, the changes that are taking place, and it really is a bit of a revolution. You know, when you look at the growth of e-commerce, which is one aspect, I think, of what we see going on, you know, in this country, e-commerce is growing at 15% each year on a compounded basis. The rest of the retail economy is only growing at about 3%. So consumers are increasingly moving online, and what's really concerning about that for Canadian retailers is that 60 cents of every incremental dollar that gets spent online now is going directly to Amazon. It's not even going to conventional retailers. So there's a lot of catch-up that needs to be made, and there's a lot of distance now between Amazon and conventional competitors.
So when we're talking about our neighborhood, malls, are we thinking that they won't even exist soon?
Well, you know, when you think about it, go back 20 years, 30 years, the mall was really the apex of convenience, wasn't it? I mean, it was
one-stop shop.
One-stop shop. You could go, you could see all these brands, and if you were a young person, the mall was where you hung out. And now you hang out on Facebook or you hang out on social media. So the whole landscape, both commercially and socially, has changed.
Is there a way to turn this around? I mean, is the idea to put more attractive features inside a mall that will bring people there that's not just retail space?
Yeah, well, that's exactly, I think, what retail malls are up against now, is they really have to reinvent themselves. Having 100 brand names under one roof isn't good enough anymore. So I think we're going to see the introduction of more food, more entertainment. You're going to see more community events being held in malls. And in a way, it's kind of back to the future, because when you look at where the mall started in history, it was really the center of life for a community. And I think that's where we're going to go back to, just to make that space more interesting.
And I want to compare this a little bit because, you know, the malls we're talking about are sort of the smaller ones. When I look at the bigger ones that have had big retail names come in, like Nordstrom, for example, we're looking at the Eaton Centre as an example. Let's look at some of the top malls in Canada. I believe we have a board. There it is. Yorkdale Shopping Centre, Oak Ridge. That's in Vancouver, CF Pacific, CF Toronto. I mean, these ones, they seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, and they are, because they're doing something at least that's remarkable, and that is, as you point out, they're putting brand names under their roofs that you don't find everywhere. You know, you can't go to a Louis Vuitton store everywhere in every mall in the country. So these malls are a little bit remarkable because of that. But the interesting thing, too, is that Amazon is now turning its eye towards other categories. We sort of associate Amazon and online retail with electronics and maybe, you know, a little bit of apparel. But they're now saying, look, we want a part of the luxury market too. So I don't think that the game is necessarily over for those malls. I think they're going to have to keep stepping up what they're doing to keep consumers interested.
Yeah, so where do you see the future going?
Well, I think that the percentage of retail that gets spent online is only going to increase. Right now it's about, in Canada, about 10% of everything that we buy gets bought online. I see that becoming maybe 30 or 40% over the next decade. So that's going to put increasing pressure on retailers to really, you know, improve what they're doing and give consumers a reason to get in the car, put down their computer, and go to the mall.
And in terms of what's happening south of the border, are we seeing that transition at the same time? Are they ahead of us? Are they behind us? What's happening?
Yeah, well, you know, the chaos south of the border is worse, partly because they started off with tremendously more retail than we have in Canada. On a per capita basis, we have about 23 square feet of retail for every person in the country. In the U.S., they have about 46. Oh, wow. So it gives you a sense of how much fallout we have yet to see down there.
My goodness, the ever-changing landscape.
Ever-changing.
Doug, we appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thanks so much.